And we're live, thank God. What a way to build up anticipation, right, guys? Well, we are finally here. So, hello there, YouTube family. A very good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever time of day it is where you're joining us from. I wish you the very best of it. And if you're new to the channel, I'm so glad you have joined us today. I would love for you to be part of our YouTube family. So go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And while you're at it, why not hit the bell sign too, so you can get regular notifications. Just a few technical difficulties there. Sorry for that, guys. Just comment to let us know if you can hear us and if you can see us okay, so we know everything is good to go. Okay, I think we're back on. Wow. Well, this gets real, doesn't it, with with live streams. On Instagram. Oh, like you mean to try and go live on Insta instead? Ah. That's okay. You're all right. Well, Wendy, I really want to talk about your experience as a broadcaster, because you've got a good 30 years of broadcasting experience under your belt. I know that's hard to believe, guys, but um, that you've got about 30 years of broadcasting experience under your belt. Yeah. um, Yeah, and what's really interesting is you've been on the front lines of breaking news stories, whether it be Hurricane Katrina or wars in the Middle East and the controversy over Ground Zero, the mosque there in New York City as well. What I would really be fascinated to know is, what would you say have been the top 3 most challenging stories that you've covered to date, and why? Mm-hmm. Sure. Excellent. And what was the progress that you saw? Mm-hmm. Hmm. Mm. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Mm. Yeah, Israel sounds especially like just an amazing experience. It's definitely on my bucket list, one of the places I'd love to visit. I've been to the Philippines. It's great. The people are so kind and so friendly. Yeah. Yeah. Can you hear Wendy? Let us know. Comment if you can hear Wendy now. Okay, still can't hear Wendy. Oh dear. Double check. I can hear you, which is good. But I know. Um, okay, let's double check. Guys, can you hear Wendy now? Okay. No, well, I can hear you, which is good, but sadly they can't. So what we're going to do is we are going to try and fix things. I'm not too sure why we can't hear. Um,
You think it's on your end this
I,
time?
yeah, I'm not, okay, so they're saying well done, so hopefully they can hear us now. No?
Oh,
No,
no.
you can't hear us? Okay.
And this is live on YouTube?
This is live on YouTube. Um, okay, guys, we are going to be back again with you. We are just going to try and see what's going on. So bear with us. I'm not too sure why you can't hear us. Okay. Oh, they can hear us. Oh, perfect. Thank gosh. Ah.
Really? What
I'm
happened?
not too sure. I think it was just the live stream picking up the two sounds from the two different inputs. But thank God they can hear us both now perfectly. Sorry, guys, if you missed that. Wendy was talking about her basically her most favorite stories that she's covered. Wendy, do you mind giving us a quick summary of that for those who missed?
No. So, I can hear, but well, I've been at CBN 20 years, Beverly, and I started out doing a lot more reporting. The last 8 years or so, I've been doing more co-hosting and more on the desk. But years ago, I was fortunate enough to go to the Philippines and cover story 2002, and it was pretty dangerous because we were in the jungles. The Abu Sayyaf had kidnapped them and taken them by boat to the jungles, and we went to that same jungle. I had 7 armed bodyguards
Wow.
just to do this story. And you have to understand,
Mm-hmm.
because the Philippines is mainly Christian, but where we were was this Muslim stronghold, and the Abu Sayyaf were these radical Muslim terrorists.
Mm-hmm.
So just the whole trip, the whole was exciting. We never got to obviously interview the hostages.
Mm-hmm.
That was too dangerous. But
Sure.
a year later, when Gracia Burnham she was shot and released. Unfortunately, her husband was killed, but she wrote a book called In the Presence of My Enemies. And when that book came out, I got to sit down and interview her. And so that story was one of my favorites. It wasn't the
No.
it was the course of a year we continued to follow it. And then 10 years later, so about how many years ago? About 6 years ago, I went back to see how things were now with the Abu Sayyaf. Were they still as fierce? Because they were ISIS before ISIS was ISIS. They were heads off.
Gosh.
So I went back, and we did find that there had been some progress made, that the Abu Sayyaf were still there. They were still up to their no good deeds, but things had gotten better for some of the residents, even though it was still not by any means. They still are causing problems for the residents there. But yeah, that story, I love the Philippines. I love my trips to Israel, were amazing. One of them during a war. But I really love covering so many different things.
Yeah.
Two countries, Israel.
Absolutely. It sounds like quite an adventure on both fronts. So that's so exciting. Wendy, how did you get into journalism? When did you make the decision that actually, I think this is something that I'm good at and this is something that I want to pursue? How did that come about?
I think I was about 5 years old.
Wow.
Watching this with my dad. And I don't know if I wanted, I really don't know if my dad influenced me or if it was just something that I said, I like this. I just wanted to be one of those ladies on TV with the microphone and just report it. I wavered from until I went, all through high school, college. I, put all my studies towards journalism, whether it was either newspaper, radio, TV, and was always
Wow, that's so amazing that you knew what you wanted to do at such a young age and you pursued your passion. It's great that you knew early on what you wanted to do, because I feel in this generation, a lot of folks, because there is so much choice out there, they really struggle to kind of hit home on what it is they actually want to do. But that,
it is a blessing. It was, I thought everybody was like me, that everybody knew, you were just born knowing what you wanted to do. So but here, interestingly, I got fired from my.
No way.
And I'm writing about that whole story. But I was devastated because I was 24 years old. I'd already been at one TV station and had a degree in broadcasting. And I was told by my news director, and I mean, I wanted to do this since I was 5.
Absolutely.
And now I'm told I've got to figure out something else. Well, I spent about 6 months soul searching, doing all kinds of odd jobs, from working in a law office to, I even took the LSAT thinking, well, I'll be a lawyer.
Okay. No.
Listen, I wanted to be a broadcaster. But when you're that young and you're told by someone in authority, you're not cut out for this, you sort of believe it. But one day I just woke up and I said, I got to get back into TV. And it took me years to really even want to talk about this resume. And I actually took it off my resume, like it never even happened. But 5 years ago, when I won a national award for excellence in Christian broadcasting, I decided it's time to talk about this.
Yeah.
This is no longer say, look, I overcame this. I, am a survivor, not a survivor, but, I overcame this. And I wanted to tell people, don't let one person's opinion derail you from your destiny.
Absolutely.
You know, don't let one person
Mm-hmm.
do, and I believed it.
Mm.
But when you know something deep down, don't ever let one person, or maybe even a handful of people, opinion derail you from your destiny, because if God has put a desire in you,
Mm.
there's a reason for that. So when I won that award, I was like, okay, how
Yeah.
oh,
And
and
that
God had a plan.
absolutely, God did. He had a marvelous plan, and He's so gracious in that He uses everything, you know, even the good, the bad, and the ugly. He works all things out for our good. It's interesting you say that, because a very insightful movie that I watched fairly recently, I actually watched it on the plane on the way back from the States. Just before lockdown happened, so I was glad to make it back. But it's called Bombshell, and I wonder if you've seen it. It came out last year, and it's got quite the star cast. So it has Nicole Kidman, Charlize Theron. The whole cast have done an incredible job. But it really, well, it's based on a true story, and it really shows how competitive the broadcasting industry can be. Now, I know especially the route that you chose is different, but have you found that during your career, is it really that cutthroat in some ways?
Well, I haven't seen the movie, but I do want to see it,
Okay.
because that was all happening just a few years ago, the
Mm.
Me Too movement. And Gretchen Carlson, who was highly featured in the movie, I've interviewed several times, and I've even been on her show a couple times. Uh, but and it's train of thought. What was I going to say?
About,
What was your question?
yeah, is it, how competitive is broadcasting in your
Oh, well,
experience?
I was in local news for
Mm.
10 years before I came to CBN. And so local news is a whole different animal.
Sure.
You know, CBN, we're a ministry.
Mm-hmm.
We're a ministry. We're co-workers, but we're one team. We pray before each and every show.
Yes.
Kind of like have each other's back here. It's a completely different situation than local news, can be
Absolutely.
a lot more
Yeah.
competitive.
Yeah.
And also you compete against other stations.
Mm.
But I love local.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it was such a great training ground
Yeah.
for where I am now. But it was fun because you had a team.
Yeah.
You had your sports guy and your weatherman and
Mm.
your news and your so I loved anchoring and having.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um,
So with local
so it
news, it was a healthy competition.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
think all compet. I mean,
Ex-
unless someone is really trying to, you know, undercut you or something, but competition's healthy. I
Yeah.
think it spurs all of us on, and
Absolutely.
God uses it, and we all need to get out of our
This
comfort
is
zone.
it.
Sometimes I certainly do. Sometimes I need a little, like, oh, hey, I better step up my game,
Yeah.
So
Great.
I
And
think it's good.
yeah, absolutely. Um, a bit of pressure can be actually very good and exactly what we need to kind of motivate us to go forward. Yeah, speaking of competition and pushing yourself, we know that outside of work, you're actually a very fun loving and adventurous person as well. One of the
Mhm.
things that you love to do in your spare time is hiking and mountain climbing. I know you've covered Machu Picchu, also Kilimanjaro, Everest
Mhm.
Base Camp. Tell us more about that. How did you get into sort of mountain climbing and hiking?
Well, the first big mountain I climbed, I was 10. We lived in Tennessee. We went to a place in the Smoky Mountains called Mount LeConte. It was 6,000 feet high, the highest I'd ever fell in love with mountain climbing then, but I didn't get serious about it until maybe 20 years ago, 25 years ago, just because I was into other sports and things. But I love being out in nature. I love the
Mm-hmm.
the physical. and then one of Virginia's highest peaks over 50 times, maybe 100 times, I decided I needed a bigger mountain to climb. And I prayed about it, and I really felt like God said Kilimanjaro. And I was obviously a little hesitant at first, but I decided about it. And so 2014, September of 2014, I climbed Kilimanjaro, which is Africa's highest mountain, and it's the highest freestanding mountain in the world, meaning it's not part of a mountain chain like the Himalayas, like Everest is part of the Himalayas, but it just literally comes out of the African plain,
Gosh.
300 or so, and that was my favorite mountain, Kilimanjaro.
That's amazing. Any mountains left to climb? Any still on your wish list?
You know, it's funny that you ask that because of course, there'll always be more mountains to climb.
Mm-hmm.
I really, the big ones, so to speak, I mean, Kilimanjaro, Base Camp, Machu Picchu, and I did, right when I got engaged, I did, not with my fiance, but I'd already had it planned. In September of 2018, I did Blanc.
Okay, yeah.
France, Italy, and Switzerland. It's not super high. It's not I think the highest we went was 10,000 maybe, but it's just beautiful. I mean, it's just 3 countries, just rolling hills.
Wow.
It's gorgeous. So it was hard, but it was hard because it was long. It was like 8 hours.
Yeah.
Again,
that's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
Ever thought of K2?
Well, I don't like to be that cold. And
Yes.
some of the ones I avoided, like some of the ones where you get up and sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Like even on base camp, we slept in tea houses.
Right.
Now Kilimanjaro, we slept in tents. But I try to avoid the ones that are really icy and cold.
Yes. I hear you can't do it in the winter because it's just too dangerous, K2.
Yeah. K2, they say K2 is more dangerous than Everest in many respects.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna leave K2 to the serious climbers.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, somewhere where you talk about your passion for hiking and mountain climbing as well, and the story you were talking about, that's one of your favorites, has been mentioned here as well. It's your fantastic book. You are a prize to be won. I've got my Kindle version here because it's practical like that. Don't settle for less.
I've got the book here.
Oh, there we go.
You see my one?
So guys, you know now you can get the hard copy or you can get the digital version too. You're spoilt for choice. Yes, you are a prize to be won. Don't settle for less than God's best. I love this book. I've read it twice myself, and one of my best friends.
Thank you.
Certainly. Rachel, who's actually watching in right now. Hi, Rach. Shout out to Rachel. It's been a blessing for her as well. Tell us more about the book.
Well, it was born out of a heartbreak. I was in my mid-40s, and I finally met this Christian guy, and he was tall, dark, and handsome, and he walked the walk and he talked. Okay, this is it. This is what I've been waiting for, and I just really, maybe went ahead of the Lord in terms of, in my mind, planning the wedding, and just, I wanted the fairy tale. I'd waited a long time. I was, like I said, in mid-40s, a lot of girls, way too old, right? But, I'd really enjoyed my career so much that I actually didn't want to get married in my 30s. I wanted to wait a little bit longer. So after a year of dating, and it was a pretty intense year, we lived out and talked on the phone about every day. So at the end of the year, I thought he was going to propose to me. Instead, he said, God says I have to give you back, and I was just completely devastated, heartbroken, and shocked, really shocked. This is not what I saw coming. Now, if I really been to the Lord was coming, but when we all do this. Sometimes we just ignore the red flags, and there were plenty of red flags, and there were plenty of things God was saying. But sometimes you want what you want, and God has to rescue you. I wasn't strong enough. It wasn't best. It wasn't what God had for me. So during the weeks really just days after this happened, I heard the Holy Spirit say, write about your test. Write about your test.
Wow.
And just love
Gosh.
I mean, all of a sudden I could just understand why, he wasn't right for me, and I could look back and see all the times God was speaking to me, and a lot of it was like, you read the book, a lot of it was humorous, where I was in the airport, and I kept getting into the stall.
Yeah.
About in Proverbs about don't be like a dog and return to your vomit, and he was giving me literal, vomit issues, and that there were a lot of times, that God was speaking to me that I didn't listen, but put in the book along with the entire story, and some chapters about guarding your heart and how to avoid the counterfeit. Because as I was writing, God was just downloading like wisdom and helping me understand and put it all in perspective. Writing, God will resurrect this, but that wasn't his plan. It wasn't best. I dedicated this book to my future husband, and I said, to my future husband, I know you'll be worth the wait. And it was how many years? The book came out in 2014. I met my future husband. So time.
Yeah.
But God's timing is perfect.
Absolutely. And Wendy, thank you so much for being so open and listening to the prompt that you got there from the Holy Spirit, because I can testify your book has been such a blessing, not just for me, but so many women and girls world over. And guys, this is a good book for you as well, because it really does give you good insight as to how we think as girls and as women, and being respectful and being kind towards a woman's heart. And so thank you so much, Wendy, because you didn't have to share that, but because you did, it's been such a blessing, and it's been like great advice from a wiser older sister who's been there, done that, and is telling other girls, listen up, girls. So thank you so much for that. And go ahead.
The main message is you are a prize to be won. Mm-hmm. You are if you don't value yourself, if you don't see yourself the way God sees you, you'll settle for bad behavior. Or you'll settle for someone who says, I love you, but I don't know if you're the one, like I did. And the whole point of the book really entertains at the same time, telling some hard truths, but also for women to know their value. Absolutely. Because when you know your value, it's a game changer. It changes what you'll put up with. It changes who you will date. Help you not, because God doesn't want us to settle. He's so heartbroken when we settle, because he does have best for us. And is there one thing do you remember anything particular that like really stood out to you or resonated?
Yes, absolutely. So for me, it was the example that you